What's it like up in Sun Valley, Idaho? Not known for a hockey hotbed. What's hockey like in the skill development um, and all that?
Well, I mean, that's so when we were growing up, we just played. We were able to, like, we played in driveways, we put on our rollerblades. We were fortunate enough to have a frozen soccer field outside the elementary school that we were able to get 5 months of pond hockey, but it was on a soccer field, but frozen ice surface that got resurfaced by a little John Deere all the time, and it was taken care of. So we were pretty fortunate that we always, one form or another had, ice if we needed it. We had an outdoor rink that was 365 days a year. Is the only outdoor rink that operates all year round because of the figure skating was such a, uh, if you wanted it bad enough, you were able to find it, and I think growing up in that small town, you know, a lot of young kids are skating on those ponds with adults. So it taught you, to be strong with your stick. It taught you to be a little bit confident and not shrink down when you're playing with older players. And although these older players aren't good players by any means necessarily, but they're still stronger than you. They're still older than you, so they're intimidating. They're older. So you kind of, are you going to defer to this player? Are you going to do this? Plus you're playing with a lot of players that are a little bit weaker. So are you going to be able to make them better? Or are you going to be that jerk out there that is trying to pump in 10 goals and you didn't make one other person better or give someone else a tap in? So I think that's something that, I was fortunate enough to learn, from a younger age that it was a lot harder to get the worst guy on the ice a goal and have him be so happy and tell his buddies that, the whole week of work that he scored one, than it was for you to pump in 10. So I think that's where, like that taught me a lot as a player, I think, and went with me a lot throughout my career.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's all very important things that you just said that there. I mean, you hear from these parents as well. They all want their kid to be on the ice with all the best players and the most competitive players. That's a great mindset to have, and you want that to always get better. But you got to learn the other side of the line of being the best out there and being confident, being a leader. You got to be able to pass on your skills to even the younger or the ones that aren't as good. It's a skill to have. I mean, you at every level, believe that you could agree with me here, is every level, whether we've been the worst player on the team or we've been on one of the best players on the team, but there's always someone better than you usually. Oh, of course there is. And there's always someone worse than you that you're like, oh, you scratch your head like, oh, you're here, but you have to work with that person. And that's a life skill that you have to have all the way up.
So, growing up in that small town or the not hockey hotbed, on each ice surface for practice, there's such a big difference between the best and the worst, and I have parents come up to me all the time and say, I'm like, oh, why didn't I'm asking them, why didn't I see little Joey or little Johnny at, or little Megan at skate the other day? Oh, she or he doesn't want to waste his time with this because there's a couple other kids that, aren't very good out there. And I said, well, you know what? Like, I'm throwing my gear on, if you were to look at it, the level I am above your kid is way higher than the level that he or she is above that lower kid. And you don't hear me complaining about skating with Johnny or Joey or Megan. And they look at you for a second like, wow, never really thought of it that way. It's like, how are you going to use your time? Are you going to use it as conditioning? Are you going to stop and start? Are you going to play the right way? Are you going to try and dangle every single person in the game setting because you can? Or are you going to make it more game-like where, you're making plays, you're still passing the puck hard, you're passing when you should, you're back-checking through the dots as opposed to just circling around. Like, what's your mindset going to be like? You can skate with anybody and still get better, in my opinion. And I think a lot of that gets thrown out the door, that when people look at who's out on an ice and say, oh, you can't get better, all like that. You can get better anywhere. And that's my thinking, and that's always been my thought process. And I've always felt like I've been the best going into training camp when I'm confident, when I love to play the game, when I'm not sick of it. And I think I've got, and I personally at least have the most fun playing in summer with all skill types, all ages, all whatever, because that's what I did growing up, and that's what I continue to do in the summer. It's like I don't get to skate with a group of 10 pro guys in the summer. I skate with a hodgepodge of maybe a couple college kids, couple prep school kids, couple high school kids, and then a mason for work, the grocery store clerk, the other businessman, businesswoman. That's who you skate with. So are you going to make the most of it? And that's always the fun. I just love playing. I say my skates are magic, just like that book. It's like anytime I throw them on, I always have a pretty good time. So, it's like, what are you going to do with your time? You're going to get better. And I think there's a place to get better anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. From experience, being from Victoria, BC, spending most of my off seasons here, it's not a big city at all. Only so many pros, only so many junior players. But I found myself for many years doing power skating sessions. Her name's Denise Bowles, and then working with Pee-wee players, bantam players. I didn't really mind who else was out there as long as I can get my work in and what I really work on. I know going to power skating is a lot of skating techniques. So having my rest of 1 month off the ice or whatever it was, I was able to get back to the basics of the technique, and that's the way I personally liked it, was to do that stuff and do it.
And your effort level, it didn't matter who was on the ice. Like, your effort level was going to be exactly the same.
Yeah. It's a little different if we're doing battle drills. Myself, so we're not. That's not what it was. It was technique and many different skating skills.
If you finally see one good player with the puck, like, you're going to go a little bit harder on that person. But then when other people have it, you're going to use all of a sudden that's where you get the habits of talking on the ice, directing that person, or directing those 4 other people where to go, telling who to pick up on defense, just different things like that can always help you evolve as a player, and those details. And I think, those are invaluable lessons, and to be able to do that in any setting, you're not always going to be in 0-0 games or 1-0 games. Like, sometimes games going to be 6-0, sometimes you're going to be down 6-0. But if you have the same habits all the time, then it's going to translate.